and this is BlisszyStitches, where we deal with everything DIYs, fashion designing, and lifestyle. If you're a new subscriber, you're welcome to our family. We love you so much. And to the returning subscribers, thank you so much for your constant support, and you're the reason why we keep doing what we're doing. So, without no further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay guys, welcome to our drafting manipulation edition of this tutorial. So we all know how to take our basic body's measurement and how to, calculate it appropriately, segmenting the upper body and the lower body. Now we want to take a physical look at what it means to draft the basic pattern and manipulate it. Now what is pattern or basic body's manipulation? This is actually the use of that to create illusions on your pattern or your outfit. Now, what that means is the ability to change one style to the other by using just one basic bodice measurement or sample. For instance, the ability to switch from tightening the bust or the underbust to give it a tight silhouette to tightening or enhancing the waist and the hip region, and then creating an illusion where the back and the front of your bodice is equal, or giving some illusions or manipulations where you bring in extra pieces to create a whole outfit without making it visible or obvious. Now that's just what we mean by basic bodies manipulation. So it is basically the use of that to create multiple styles and illusions without it showing that they are attachment or patchwork being done. So, and the ability to tighten one space and moving it to the other space, or reducing or increasing of measurement from one point of the body to the other. So we all know that, I think I did a video on the basic bodies drafting, but I'm still going to go through it again so the process will be well understandable. So now, this is our pattern paper, let's assume. So this is going to serve as our folded end. So for instance, if you're using a pattern paper, a cardboard, a fusion sheet, this you're going to fold it into two. As a beginner, you would need that, but then as an advanced beginner, you should know this already. So your pattern is always going to be on the fold. Let's go, let's continue. So now, I want to create the basic bodice pattern. And in creating the basic bodice pattern, what you simply need is your starting line. Okay, what you need is your starting line. So let's assume that this is our starting line, and this is going to serve as my shoulder line, and then on your shoulder line or your starting line, there are two basic measurements that you should establish, all right, on the horizontal axis, which is your shoulder measurement divided by 2, and then your neck width. All right, so this is going to be our neck width, which I'm going to leave it at 3 inches or 3.5 inches, as the case may be, because remember, there is no standard body that are the same. You have to do your calculation by measuring your neck circumference and dividing it by 5 to get your neck width, and dividing it by 6 to get your neck depth. All right, so this is going to be our neck width of 3 inches, and then shoulder for 15 inches divided by 2 is going to give you 7.5. Right, so you're going to mark your 7.5 at that point. And because there is no shoulder that is actually straight, any human body doesn't look straight in its original form. So it's kind of curvy or slanted, but it is not straight, including the shoulder. It might appear straight, but it's not straight. So because the shoulder is not straight, you are going to come down by the numbers of your body differences. So if you are on the petite size, right, ranging from the bust measurement of 32 to 38 or 39.5 at most, in as much as you don't cross over to 40, it is expected that you use a shoulder slant of 1 inch differences from the actual established line, okay, as your shoulder slope. But if you cross above 40, meaning it's going to give you a higher figure when you measure, when you take your shoulder measurement, it's actually going to go above 17 inches or thereabout. So you are advised to take between 1.25 to 1.5 inches as your shoulder slope. So here we're going to do 1 inch, and let's assume this is where the 1 inch point stops. Now when you are done doing that, this is just what you're going to do. You're going to place a ruler or your cuff and connect the line to your shoulder slope. And when you're done doing that, you're going to take your measurement from your shoulder point down to where you have your chest line. Now there is a simple formula that I'm going to give to you that works for everybody apparently, that I'm aware of, on how to get your chest line measurement. So if you're on the petite size, again, which means the small size, ranging from size 36 bust or size 32 bust to size 38 or 39.5 as the case may be, you are advised to add an extra inches of 1.5 inches to whatsoever measurement you're going to have when you divide your bust by 6. So, but if you cross the bust of 40 above, you are advised to add 2 inches to whatsoever measurement you have when you divide your bust by 6 to get the actual figure. So now in this particular measurement that I'm working with, I'm going to be working with the measurement of 38 inches as the bust circumference. So what I'm going to do is to divide the bust by 6. So 36 divided by 6 is going to give you approximately 6.833. So now when you add 1.5 inches to it, that's going to give you approximately 8.3. All right, as the figure. So now I'm going to mark from my shoulder measurement. Okay, so it's going to be assumed that this, from the distance from my shoulder line to my chest line, is 8.3 inches, and I'm going to mark that and create a horizontal line at that spot. Then what I'm going to do next is to take the shoulders measurement divided by 2 on my chest line. So this is my chest line. What I would do is to come here, I place my tape and mark my 7.5 inches at this point. And then from my own shoulder slope, I'm going to connect it to where I have my 7.5 inches. And with that, you have created or established a perfect shoulder curve or an armhole curve for your outfit. So I hope we've gone past that stage, and I believe it's well understandable. Let's take the line out. All right. Let's take the line out. So in most cases, all right, in most cases, when you are making a bustier or a tubeless dress or a dress that is going to have like a princess that, you have to extend your chest line. You have to extend your chest line to your folded end, because you would be needing this line here, this horizontal line here, for your manipulation. But in a scenario where you are not creating any form of that, or yes, any form of that on your outfit, you do not need to create or extend your chest line to your folded end. So what you're going to do is from your chest line point where your shoulder slope meet, you're going to extend it out. But let's say that in this case, we will be manipulating afterwards. So let's just leave it the way it is. So this is at 8.3, right? And we have the shoulder divided by 2, which is giving us 7.5, and we've established an armhole curve. On armhole straight line for the curve. Okay, so the next thing is to take our underbust measurement, which is actually not necessary at this point except for the styles that you are going to be creating. But if the style you're creating needs you to do something on your underbust, you really need to pay attention to that. But this is the basic bodice drafting, so you need it. The next line is our waistline, and then the last but not the least line is our upper hip line. So sometimes you might want to make an outfit. If the board was big enough, I would want to do it again where we use a full scale measurement. But let's assume that this is going to be an half scale measurement, which deals with the shoulder to the waist. And then we have our actual length, which is a little bit bigger than where our waistline is. All right. So what I'm going to do next is, when you have your lines, horizontal lines drawn out this way, what you do next is to establish your nipple to nipple measurement, which we had already established while we were taking our basic bodice measurement. And for me, I'm going to be using 3.75, and I'm going to go ahead to create that from my bust point line to my underbust, and then from my underbust to my waistline, from my waistline to my hip line, or the upper hip line. Why am I doing this? It is to create the first that illusion that we have, which is tightening the waist and the stomach region, or in most cases the underbust region. So what I'm going to do is explaining why you have most that range from 1 inch to 3 inches depending on your bust cup and your body size. You can have a dart width of about 1 to 3 inches. Now this one here is the ratio for petite size, people who have more of the lower belly line than those who have bigger stomach. All right, so if you have a flat tummy, this works for you in tightening whatsoever you want to tighten. And also, if the differences of your back and your front length measurement is between 2 inches, 1 to 2 inches, all right, then you are allowed or free to make use of a 1 inch dart. What do I mean by that? When you place your tape on your shoulder and measure down to your waistline at the front, and you have a ratio like 17 inches or 15 inches or 14 inches, as the case may be thereabout, right, or 18 inches, and then when you place your tape measure on the back nip point of your neck, and then you take it to the bulging end of your waist at the back, or the protruding, the bulging end, that side where it goes in, like the gutter point at the back, and you have a number that is maybe, if you took the front measurement and it gave you 18 and you went over to the back and it gave you something like 16, it means you have a bust that difference of 2 inches. And then you took at 17 inches at the front, and when you went to the back, you had something like 15 inches or 15.5, as the case may be, right? It means you also have a bust that differences of 1.5 or 2.5 to 2 inches. And then if you had 15 at the front and then you had 14 at the back, it means you have 1 inch differences of butt dust. Now this means that your front is bigger than your back with either 1 inch or 2 inches or 3 inches. And this is exactly the fact that you're going to establish when you are giving your dart what's it called, dart circulation at the front. When you are segmenting your dart, you have to take note of what your differences are. If you are on the busty end, there is a chance that you might have a bust difference of 3 inches or a bust dart of 3 inches different from what you have at the back side. Now let's proceed. So for this measurement now, the difference between this measurement at the front and the back is 2 inches, meaning the front from shoulder to the waistline at the front is 17 inches, and then the distance from the back to the waist length is 15 inches. So that is 2 inches bust dart. So in this case, what I'm going to do is to split it into two. I'm going to give 1 inch dart to the front and 1 inch dart to the back for the dart tightening. So what I'm going to do is come to the waistline like so. Mind you, this is the waistline, this is the bust point line, all right? Okay, this is the under bust point line, this is the waistline. Okay, because we established that we're going to stop at the waistline because of the size of the board, and this is the chest line. So now we are going to come here to the bust dart here, and we are going to come to the waistline here, and what we're going to do is from our dart, from our nipple to nipple span measurement, we're going to go in by half inch, mean half inch to the left and half inch to the right. And we are going to connect our nipple to nipple measurement in a straight line like this together, like you see me do. And then you are going to take the connection. Sorry, it might not be as straight as it should be when you are doing it, but please ensure that yours is straight. So now with this, you have established what we call a waist dart. A waist dart. So now, for instance, if you are going to be manipulating this basic bodice measurement, which is perfect at this point, this is where your manipulation starts, from your bust point. Okay, from your bust point. Now you've been able to split your bust dart measurement into two by giving 1 inch to the front and 1 inch to the back. That is the same method that applies if you have 3 inches differences. You are applying 1.5 to the front and 1.5 that tightening to the back, or 1 inch tightening to the front and 2 inches tightening to the back. However it is, your measurement has to reflect your bust dart differences, and it must balance as well. So now this is what we've done to this point. We've established our dart, and the next thing we are going to do is to take our bust measurement divided by 4, and we are going to mark the same thing to the chest line, bust measurement divided by 4, and we are going to mark. And then when you do this, what you want to do is divide whatsoever you have from your bust, from your shoulder slope to your chest line by 2, coming in by half of an inch or 0.75 or 1 inch, as the case may be, depending on your bust cup. Now that's another lesson on its own. I'm going to create a video where I talk about the different bust sizes and the bust cups or the bust volume that we have. So when you do this, you're going to go ahead and connect all 3 points together like so. So I've been able to establish my armhole curve at that point. Now, then what I'm going to go ahead to do is to mark the same measurement that I have on the chest line should tally with the same measurement that you have on your bust point line. And then you go ahead to create your waist, your under bust measurement divided by 2, right? As the case may be, but in most basic bodies or in most basic bodies drafting, you don't really need to take this into consideration until when you start manipulating your basic bodice measurement. So we are going to mark the bust point, and then we are going to come over to the waistline, and we are going to mark exactly what we have on the waistline divided by 2. Okay, so in this case, sometimes you might see, I'm going to create 3 lines. Ignore it, I want to use it for an explanation. Most times you might see some people's measurement coming this way, all right, and then you see something like this, and then you see something like this, where it is giving this silhouetted curve. It means the person's upper body, the bust of that person is bigger than the waist of that person, or the bust and the waist is equal while the under bust is smaller, right? And most times it could also appear that the bust can be smaller and the waist would be wider. Remember the different body shapes and types that we have. So in this case, I want to use this point here as my waist point line, and then you can also get something that almost look like a straight line, which will simply look this way, right? It means you don't have most of those curves on your body, maybe because all your body points are almost the same in measurement, with a slight difference of about ½ inch or 0.75 or 1 inches. We're going to go into the first manipulation, which is transferring our waist dart to our bust dart, all right, and then moving our bust dart to our shoulder dart, okay, or moving our waist dart to our shoulder dart and transferring it from shoulder dart to the bust dart to create an illusion. So what you usually call a bustier or a princess dart bustier is actually the transfer of the waist dart to the shoulder dart, and from the shoulder dart to the bust dart. All right, so let's put that into work or practice. Now, looking at this measurement, what you're going to do to create that shoulder dart illusion is to come to your shoulder slope, divide whatsoever you have here by 2, and then connect that with a slanted line, or as the case may be, but you're connecting it to your bust point line like so. Okay, so now the thing is, take note, you have your chest line across board like so. Let me put that clean so you can see it well. This is our bust point, that, taking it this way. Okay, please ignore my hands are shaking. It's actually not straight the way it should be. Pardon me. So this is dividing the shoulder dart by 2 and connecting it to your bust dart. Now, how do you transfer your bust dart to the actual curve dart or the armhole dart? Before we do that, you want to come to your bust point end like this to transfer your waist dart to your bust dart before you contour your shoulder dart to the armhole point. So what you're going to do next is to come to your bust dart here and take the differences that you have, which is the difference from the front and the back. If it is 3 inches, please mark from your bust dart. Mark from your bust line 3 inches and connect it to your bust point like this. If it is 2 inches, ensure you do the same thing. Now, remember you are tightening it. You want everything to appear the same with the front and the back, okay, sitting properly in place. So for this, I told you I'm going to be using 2 inches. So I'm going to mark my 2 inches this way. And from my bust point line, I'm going to connect it to that 2 inches, okay. So when I'm done doing this, I've actually created a space where I'm going to transfer this to the bust dart. The next thing for me to do is to come to my shoulder slope point, measure down from that point 4 inches, okay, 4 inches, and you're going to mark it on the cuff point like this. Remember, you are tightening your shoulder dart measurement, okay. So when we are done doing that, we are going to measure from that point there, okay, from the 4-point line. I'm going to connect back, okay. I'm going to connect from my bust point, okay, to the 4 inches that I have at that point. So how did we come about with the 4 inches? I'm going to create a video where I explain that, so you will not need to know, you will have to understand better, because not everybody can use 4 inches. Like I said earlier, if you're on the petite size, there are a lot of standard values that you would be making use of when you are drafting your basic bodice measurement. But anything that makes you cross from the small, medium, average into the plus or the extra large size, your measurement might be complicated, or the values might not really be a standard value. You have to do some corrections or some calculations to arrive at the actual value which will work for you. Now, having done that, what I'm going to do next is to come down from this 4 inches point by 1 inch. Right, you're going to come down by 1 inch, because remember your waist dart is 1 inch, and the difference between your bust, your length at the front and the back is 2 inches, which you divided into 2. So when you have a 1 inch dart here, remember that you're also taking a 1 inch dart here to contour your bust curve. But if you have 1.5 or 2 inches, please do the same way you have this. So I'm going to take my 1 inch, and what I'm simply going to do is to contour it back to my bust point like so. So when I'm done doing this, if I connect my armhole point at this point here, it's going to appear shorter and far off from where my center front is going to be. So what am I going to do? I'm going to replace this 1 inch that I took out from here, and then I'm going to just extend it upward like so and create my armhole. Okay, I'm going to extend it to do what? To create my armhole curve. And most times you have to create that way. You have your initial armhole curve is this way, and then this is this way like so. So I'm extending it from this point here, this armhole point here, to this point. Let's say this is it, and I'm going to recurve my armhole curve like so. All right. And then most times, if you're making a tubeless dress, you have to come down here with 1 inch and connect your armhole point to that point to avoid gaping, which is definitely not going to be this way. So you blend it in back like so. All right. So with this, when you are cutting on your pattern paper, what you're simply going to do is to cut through from this point here all the way to this point, and you stop. Okay, then you come here and you slash out your dart following this other line all the way to this point, and you stop. Then you come over to your bust dart differences, then you slash through from here. You take it back to where you have your bust point to connect it together and shaping it back. So you're going to just shaping it by connecting this line from the shoulder back, because the moment you cut this and you bring it to the bust point, you're going to see that the lines are not going to be equal anymore. So it's been tampered with. What you're going to do is to connect back from your chest line point to your waistline using a straight or a slanted line, as the line appears or presents itself. Some people have something like this at the end of the day, while others have something like this at the end of the day. So whatever shape yours has, there is nothing wrong with you. You were just actualizing what your shape looks like. Okay, so now having done that, in a situation where this outfit is not going to have like an upper body where it's tubeless, so when you look at the diagram that we have here, we're just going to simply mark down our neck depth. Okay, this is our neck width and this is our neck depth, and then we're going to connect that point together like so. And here you have your perfect princess bust dart with your complete bodice. So be sure to label your diagram.